With the right process in place, you can make paying rent simple for your tenants and avoid late payments. Hi, I'm Soli Cayetano, also known as Lattes and Leases, and I'm here with Avail to show you the basics of collecting rent online. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this, and follow me on Instagram at Lattes and Leases. Okay, so let's start with how to collect rent online. The primary source of income from your rental business is rent payments, and there is nothing more exciting than watching that revenue flow in. That's why it's important to create a rent collection process that's simple and efficient. The first step to planning out your rent collection process is to decide how you want to accept rent payments. You could accept a form of payments like cash or check, but this involves collecting the rent in person or waiting on a mail delivery, and then going to the bank to deposit your funds. This process can be tedious, unreliable, and difficult to keep organized, especially if you're managing multiple properties. Plus, if you're looking to avoid late payments, it may be worth looking into collecting rent online for options that make submitting rent payments easy for tenants. Rent collection apps are a great tool to help you streamline the rent collection process and encourage on-time payments. For example, you can schedule upcoming payments so tenants know when rent is due. Then the app can send automated rent reminders and process payments in less time than with a traditional check. Some options even allow tenants to report on-time rent payments to credit bureaus to build their credit, which can be another way of encouraging tenants to pay rent on time every month. I personally prefer to standardize digital rent payments for all my rentals. This helps me stay organized and track tenant payments across one platform like Avail. One of my favorite features is the automatic rent reminders because it automates my process and gives me one less thing to worry about. Now that we've got the basics out of the way, let's take a look at 7 ways to encourage your tenants to pay rent on time. Number 1 is making paying rent convenient. If you require tenants to withdraw cash to pay rent or they need to mail you a check, the process may be a little bit inconvenient and you're more likely to get paid late. You can avoid these inconveniences by setting up an online rent payment system. Online rent collection means that tenants can pay from their computer, tablet, or smartphone with just a few simple clicks. And with a platform specifically designed for rent collection, tenants may have access to features like helpful rent reminders and a way to set up automatic payments. Number 2 is to choose tenants carefully. In our video about managing rentals, we covered the importance of tenant screening. But did you know that your tenant screening process can also help you avoid late rent payments? The screening reports you request from your applicants can give you a comprehensive view of each prospective tenant. As a landlord, you might want to verify your tenant's employment and income to determine whether or not it will be challenging for them to pay rent on time. Number 3 is to inform tenants on how to pay rent. Our next tip for encouraging on-time rent payments is to clearly explain the process to your tenants. This can be done verbally, but it may be better to have the process documented in your lease for easy reference. Proper instructions should include the following. 1. What day rent is due. 2. Which payment method tenants can use to pay rent. 3. Instructions for how to pay rent on your preferred platform. And finally, who to contact if they have issues paying rent online. A well-documented rent process can help minimize any obstacles that tenants might run into and reduce the likelihood of late rent payments. Number 4 is offer incentives for paying rent on time. As a landlord, you're allowed to offer your tenants reasonable incentives for paying rent on time. It's a great way to thank your tenants for following the policies that you've set in place and encourage them to continue to do so. You may consider offering your tenants discounts on rent prices for paying rent before their due date. Or you could offer a percentage off for paying a certain amount of months on time. Opportunities to save on rent will likely be well received by your tenants. Alternatively, you can leverage other benefits as well. For example, if tenants pay rent online with Avail, they can report on-time rent payments to TransUnion with credit views for $3.95 per reported month. Building credit is usually a concern for renters, and this is an easy way to help them improve their credit while encouraging on-time payments. Number 5 is to discuss late payments with your tenants. Late payments are not acceptable, so landlords should be open to discussing them with tenants to help them determine a solution. If your tenant simply forgot to pay, you can offer to send rent reminder notices to help them prevent missed payments in the future. If it turns out that your tenant's pay schedule from work doesn't align well with your rent due dates, you may consider creating a lease amendment to change the day that rent is due each month. Communicating with your tenant and making an effort to understand the situation proves that you're a helpful landlord, and that alone may be enough to motivate your tenant to pay rent on time. Number 6 is to enforce a late fee. While communicating with your tenant about difficulties is a great practice for landlords, it's also important not to get too lax with tenants. A simple way to remind tenants that it's more beneficial to pay rent on time is by enforcing a late rent fee. A late rent fee is an additional fee charged to tenants after any grace period has passed and rent is officially late. It's intended to compensate the landlord for any back and forth communication and is used to dissuade tenants from paying late rent. Late fees are legal and enforceable as long as they're explicitly stated in your lease and adhere to local landlord-tenant laws. When determining your late rent fee, you should specify the amount and when it'll be charged. By doing so, you can communicate your expectations clearly to your tenant before they agree to sign the lease. And finally, number 7 is stick to your rental lease terms. You may have noticed that several of the previous tips involve using your lease. That's because your lease is a legally binding agreement between you and your tenants. By agreeing to the terms that you lay out, including when rent is due, your tenants agree to the responsibilities while living within your rental. While you can be flexible where needed, it's important to enforce your rules and require rent to be paid on time. Adhering to your rules stated in your lease is an important part of protecting your rental business. It's clear that with the right process and the right platform, collecting rent and rental fees can be easy. But what should you do when a tenant's rent is late? First, it's important to define what you consider as a late payment. Here are 4 benchmarks that can help guide your choice. When payments are 1 initiated, 2 withdrawn, 3 received, or 4 cleared. As a landlord, you should be also familiar with laws on grace periods. A rent grace period is a window of time after the due date where a tenant can pay rent without penalty. Not every state has a legal grace period mandate, but you can choose to implement one by writing it into your lease. Most states require them to be written in a lease to be enforceable. Late rent fees may also have legal stipulations to follow, but it's important to have one in place to communicate expectations clearly to your tenants. A late fee may also dissuade tenants from paying late. However, there may be a time when your tenants consistently miss the due date. This may merit explaining to your tenants that rent is due on your specified date. It's also worth reminding your tenant that consistently paying late is a violation of the lease and could result in their eviction, which isn't a good thing for either the tenants or you, the landlord. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Rent collection doesn't have to be difficult, so make sure you have a process in place that makes it easy for everybody. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for videos on landlording, the rental market, and more. You can also visit avail.co or click the links below to find tools that will help you manage your rentals like a pro. The links also include forms and documents that you can use for rent collection, such as past due rent notice templates and more. And remember, you can always connect with me on Instagram at Lattes and Leases for more information. Thanks again.